Yo, what's up my dudes? My name is Junette, Albanian photographer out of California, and I've had the Sony A6400 for over a year now, and I feel like I can give it a pretty decent review. And when I first got this camera, I thought I made a mistake because, you know, everybody wants a full frame, and if you don't shoot full frame, are you really a photographer? So at the time I was going through a lot of doubts. Should I buy the right camera? But I would say after a year of using this thing, I have no doubts at all. This was the right choice, and it could be the right choice for you. We're gonna go over the camera, not full depth review, but we're just gonna go over the things that you really should know. If you're a photographer looking to get this camera, I would highly recommend it 100%. The photos that come out of this thing are crisp, they're high megapixel, and sometimes you can't even tell the difference between the photos that come out of this camera and let's say like a full frame A7 III. If you don't believe me, I did make a video on it actually. My brother has the A7 III and we went out in the city of Chicago and took some photos in the daylight. I know some people would say that that's not the best way to compare those two, but honestly, most people shoot during the daytime, so I think it is. If you don't like it, then I'm sorry. Not really. So just to give you an idea of how good the photos are, about 2 weeks ago I went out to Laguna Beach and I did some street photography on the beach, and the photos turned out really good, so here you go. If you're looking to get this camera for video, the 4K is super crisp. As you can tell, that's what I'm shooting on right now. 4K 24, and it just looks really good, especially if you have a Sigma lens on there. Those lenses produce some really sharp images. So as for the 1080 120, honestly it could be a lot better. It's pretty soft, but most people aren't going to be able to tell the difference because they're watching your video or whatever you're producing on their phone, and it's really hard to tell. Honestly, when it comes down to it, this camera has a lot of pros and there's some cons. So I want to leave you with a top 3 things that I like about this camera and a top 3 things that I don't like. I feel like that's the only way that you're really going to remember the highlights of this video. Probably one of my favorite things about this camera is the price. It's $1,000 with a kit lens. There's not a lot of setups out there like this one with a kit lens for $1,000, packed with so much power. And I feel like at the time it was a good deal, especially getting into a YouTube channel. And most people don't have the money to go out and spend like $2,000 to $3,000 for a full frame body, and then, you know, you could throw a lens on there and then you're looking at some crazy numbers. So most people don't want to do that. They just want to get a good camera and start off quick. The second thing I really like about this camera is the size. It's so small, it's light, so are the lenses. I mean, this is the perfect camera to take with you on a trip to Europe, trip to wherever you want to go, and you won't even notice it's in your bag. Like, it's never a hassle. I've never been somewhere and said like, oh my god, this is too heavy, or it's taking up too much space in my bag. And I know the full frame guys can't really say the same thing because their lenses are like 2 pounds and the camera's just huge and bulky, so. The third and last thing that I really like about this camera is the flip out screen that comes up. I think it's great, especially when you're filming yourself. You can see where you're framed. Like right now I'm looking at myself. What up, dude? And it's nice. Like if you're a vlogger too, you can hold it out and see where you're at. So it really helps in terms of framing, and instead of having to go around the camera and see if I got everything right, I can just see it right now. So now it's time to talk about the 3 things that I really don't like about this camera. The first thing is that it has no IBIS. When I bought this camera, I bought it with the kit lens, the 18-135, which is stabilized, so a lot of my handheld footage actually comes out pretty good. But when you use a lens like the Sigma 30mm f1.4, which is currently on the camera right now, unless you have a tripod or a gimbal, the footage is just going to be really shaky, and it honestly gets really frustrating when I try to shoot handheld with this lens, so I don't even do it. I just put it on a tripod And I think I might get that new gimbal that just came out by Zhiyun. If you really wanted to, you could get the Sony A6500, which does have IBIS, but at the end of the day, IBIS is IBIS, and like it's not going to be the best stabilization that you're going to get unless you have the Sony A7S III. But I really think that if you got the A6400 and got a nice compact gimbal, that would be so much better than actually having IBIS in the camera. The second thing that I really don't like is the fact that the low light isn't the best, especially in video. Even with the Sigma 30mm, when I put it down to f1.4 and I'm shooting, you know, let's say at the tail end of sunset, you know, it can get pretty noisy. When I compare it to, let's say, footage from my brother's A7 III when he's shooting in low light conditions, it's just a billion times better. So I think that's just one thing that you have to understand going into this camera. The third and final thing that I really don't like about this camera is how small the grip is. I have some pretty big hands, and every time I hold it, I have my pinky finger just hanging off. It's not a deal breaker. Like, if I knew that going in, I still would have bought it, but it can get annoying sometimes, and you know, you're holding the camera the whole entire time you're shooting, so it would be nice to have a wider grip. That's about all I have to say about this camera. Even at the 6-month mark, I remember I was talking to a friend who was looking for a camera, and I actually recommended this to him, and he did end up buying it, and he really, really liked it. So even at that point, I knew that this camera was just the perfect package for the price. To be 100% honest, I've thought about getting a full frame for the last couple of months, especially with the new A7 IV coming out. And I think I'm just gonna keep riding out the Sony A6400. It just does everything I need. If you're still here watching this video, I really do appreciate you, man, because I know most people would have clicked off by now, but the least I can say is thank you, and hope you hit that like button and subscribe. I make videos on travel, coffee, photography, pretty much anything that you might get some value from. So hope to see you guys in the next one, and have a great day.